Hello and welcome to another video in the series about SDF. In the last video, we have seen the greeter and its two implementations. One is hello greeter and another is hi greeter. I have enhanced this with two more services. Let's see them. First is audit service, which is again a dependency. It has a string builder and there are two methods. One is log, which takes a message and appends the message with a current date time. And then it has a method called print audit logs, which prints whatever it has stored in the string builder so far. And then we have greeter service, a method called greet, which takes a audit service and a greeter implementation, and then first name and last name. First it logs a statement that called greet with first name and last name, and then it just prints the greetings with the greeter implementation. Now let's resolve greeter service using the greet resolver. So here is our greet resolver ready. So we'll say greet dot resolve, we'll say greeter service dot class and name it greeter. Now to call greeter dot greet, we need two more services. Again, we can find this from the resolver. So let's resolve them. So greet dot resolve audit service dot class audit and greet dot resolve greeter dot class, name it G for now. And in the greet we'll pass audit G, first name will pass Chester, the last name will pass Bennington. We'll call it one more time, the name changes, and we'll print the audit logs, audit dot print. Now let's run it and see. Alright, as we can see, it printed hello Chester Bennington first, then hello Mike Shinoda, and in the audit logs we can see it has printed the messages as per date and time called greet with first name and last names. Okay, so far so good. But if you see, we are calling a method which is dependent on two other services which are again resolvable in the dependency injection framework. So what if I can call this method directly and let the dependency injection framework provide all the dependencies it has that are resolvable to the framework, and as a developer I will just pass the extra arguments like the first name and the last name. Well, SDF actually supports calling methods dynamically, and it implicitly provides all the dependencies of that method that are resolvable to the framework. So to do that, we'll first have to mark this method with @dynamic invocation annotation. This method has 4 arguments, and these two we know they can be implicitly resolved. So we have to mark them as @implicit. Similar thing for here, @implicit. That's it. With this, SDF will know, okay, this method can be dynamically invoked and these two arguments out of the 4 can be implicitly resolved, right? Now, let's call this method dynamically using SDF. So in the main method, we don't need to resolve these services. Instead, we'll write greet dot, there is a method called invoke. It takes a class name which contains the method that I'll be calling. So we'll pass greeter service dot class and then the method name, that is greet, and then the arguments. So class name, method, and the arguments, right? Similarly, we'll change this one as well. We would need to resolve the audit to print the audit logs. So let's resolve that. Now let's run it and see. Okay, it gave an error. It says dynamic method invocation is not configured. If we want to use dynamic invocations, we have to mention them in the resolver. Where we are configuring the resolver, we have to say dot with dynamic methods. So SDF will scan the dynamic methods as well if that is given. Now let's rerun it again. As we can see, it has worked like before and it has also printed the audit logs. Okay, now let's add one more method in the greeter service. Let's call it greet1, which basically greets with last name first and first name last. So let's change that. One more thing, by default, the method names will be the method name for dynamic invocations. We can also provide an alias for that. For that, we'll have to give the alias in here. Dynamic invocation alias equals last name greet. When we provide an alias, we can refer to the method by the alias only. That means the method name won't be known to the SDF. So now let's call this method. So here I'm going to change this to last name greet and let's run it. Alright. So first one, it printed first name, then last name. Second one, it printed last name, then the first name. And in the audit logs, first is called greet and then called the greet one. Similar to dependencies, these dynamic invocations can also be configured with profiles like this. In the dynamic invocation annotation, we have to set our desired profile like dev, very much similar to what we have seen for dependencies. I'm not going into the detail. Alright, that's all for now. We have covered all the features that SDF provides as of today. However, this series will be updated as and when there is a new feature in SDF. Until then, happy coding and happy learning.